These are probably some of the best signature scents that have ever been created. What's a signature scent? That's going to be the type of scent that you as a person are generally known for wearing. So people around you, colleagues, friends, family, will probably assume that when they smell this scent lingering in the air, it's probably from you that just walked in. You kind of form an identity based off of these scents because you wear them so often. That's essentially what a signature scent is. It's kind of like your go-to, your, just all reliable that you wear often because it works really well. It complements you and your personality very well, and it's just something you really like. So what makes a good signature scent? Generally, that's going to consist of a few different things, one of which it has to be something you can wear often. If you are going to be wearing it every day or multiple times per week, and if it's going to be worn at a frequency in which people associate that scent with you, it needs to be something that's going to hold up spring, summer, fall, winter, casual, and maybe semi-formal as well, all of that stuff, pretty much any situation. Another thing is you're going to want some aspect of mass appeal to it, so that way it actually smells good to people around you and doesn't smell weird or horrible or rancid or something like a really daring niche scent. That might not be the best choice. That might not make a good signature scent, but a designer scent that is going to be maybe a bit fresher with a little bit of a sweet touch, that would be probably a great signature scent. There's going to be a few more things that go along with it as well. Like I had mentioned, something that just works well for you and what type of person you are. If you're someone who is very outgoing and likes to talk a lot, your scent might be something that kind of gets people's attention more. It might project more of a conversation starter. If you're someone who's a little bit more reserved, it might be a scent that is not as strong and in your face, and it might just kind of be a little bit more of a personal style scent. So it just depends on a number of things. But today I'm going to be going over some scents that kind of check off a lot of those boxes. Ultimately, the best signature scent is going to be the one that works the best for you. This is going to vary from person to person. However, you have to start somewhere, and there are thousands upon thousands of fragrances out there, so we're going to narrow it down to 10. This is a good place to start looking into it. Alrighty, let's get things kicked off with Narciso Rodriguez Bleu Noir EDT Extreme. So this is essentially going to be the freshest one of the line. Now, make no mistake, they all are fresh within this line for the most part. The Parfum has a bit more of a sweetness going on, but it still has the fresher, kind of musky, woody base, but all leaning in the fresher direction. This one is the most, and that's evident by the clear cap, the frosted glass bottle, gradient, and the note breakdown. This one has musk, citruses, cedarwood, and ice, which is always a fun note because ice shouldn't have a smell unless the water is rancid and yellow and questionable. So that always kind of makes me laugh. And yeah, ice, you don't actually smell ice cubes in here, but it's kind of meant to give the impression of a crisp, clean, and fresh scent. And that's kind of what this one is in a nutshell. It's going to be something that's a little bit more uplifting and bright compared to the original, the EDP, and especially the Parfum. Now, also, pretty much any of those others would make a great signature scent as well. They would all do the job. You just kind of have to choose one. You don't want to put all of them in this video. That would be a bit boring. So take your pick, whichever one is your favorite, whichever one you might have on hand now, could be a great signature scent. I would say that this is probably going to be the safest one. So if you don't want to take any risk, any chance at all, and you want to go for one of those, you can't get any safer than this. So it's a good one to check out for around $50, maybe $60. Next up, we have the original Valentino Uomo. In a world where everyone is talking about the Intense and the new Born in Romas, Born in Roma Coral Fantasy and Born in Roma EDP and Yellow Dream and all of that stuff. The original is easily forgotten, but that's kind of a shame because it is really good and offers a lot. It's also, surprisingly, one of the most affordable Valentino Uomos. It's been out the longest. It's kind of in the least demand, so there's a lot of it, and so they're able to adjust the prices accordingly. And so I think this is one generally you can get for around, I think like $80 for the 100 milliliter bottle, maybe a little bit more, but Uomo Intense is usually around 110 to 120 for that same bottle size. So there's a pretty big difference there. And again, the Intense is significantly more sought after, which kind of drives that price up. This one has hazelnut, chocolate, leather, and coffee. And even though it has all those notes, which make it look like a very sweet gourmand, there's a surprising amount of freshness to it as well. This is nowhere as sweet as the Intense, you know, and that kind of makes sense considering the Intense is an intense flanker and this is, well, the original. But it's interesting because the notes do make this one look like it's going to be much heavier than it really is. I mean, just taking a simple smell of this one, there really isn't a ton of cloying sweetness to it like you might imagine from seeing notes like hazelnut and coffee and all that stuff, which in other scents could be used heavier to allude to more of that overwhelming amount of sweetness. But that's not the case here. You know, there's a nice balance with this one overall. It's a bit gourmand, so it has some of that sweetness, but then there's also kind of a fresh woodiness, kind of a modern masculine smell, kind of as you work into the dry down. So there's a lot more than meets the eye with this. And ultimately that gives it that versatility to where if this is something you really enjoy the smell of, you can wear it for pretty much anything. You know, the only thing you might kind of want to change up a little bit is when you hit summertime. You know, this probably isn't going to be something that is going to be standing out to you. There's better options for that. But anytime, you know, you're just in temperatures where it's not hot, you know, so cool and cold, this would work great. And depending on where you live, that could be a lot of the year, spring, fall, winter. So a lot of uses for this one. Next up, we have Ralph Lauren Purple Label. So Purple Label is a super unique scent featuring blackberry and oak moss. And so, you know, kind of looking around, you'll see this one gets compared to Bond Number 9 Bleecker Street. And I always bring this up because this came first, and they kind of had the jump on this by a few years. So it's not like it was super close where it was like a coincidence. Like, I think the Bond came out 2, 3, maybe even 4 years or more after this one. I don't remember for sure, but there was enough of a gap where this one very clearly came first. And so oftentimes, you know, this kind of is labeled as a Bleecker Street clone. That's not the case. This came first. And also, to give credit where credit's due with Bleecker Street, there are some key call-outs as well in terms of the differences. That one's using blueberry, this one's using blackberry. However, they both do utilize some sort of berry note, which in and of itself is a bit unique. And also, both of them use a heavy dose of oak moss, and that is kind of a green, woody note that gives it a cologne-y, strong, masculine smell. It is something that stands out, and you can't miss it. So that's one of the major things that kind of ties those two together a little bit. And if I'm choosing my favorite, I think it would honestly be Purple Label. I think this one has actually a little bit more masculine, a little bit more mature, more refined, a little bit more premium smelling. I think the Bond goes in a bit more of a springtime playful direction, whereas this one has more support from the woods and some other things to give it more of a well-seasoned all year round style. This one's also a bit more affordable than the Bond as well, and all around it's going to be up to personal preference, but this is the one that I really like. And again, for what it's worth, super unique. Aside from that Bond, there's nothing else out there that really smells a lot like this, and again, there are differences between those two. So all in all, you could say this one kind of stands out on its own. It's quite unique. It's something that not everybody's going to be wearing. So this is easily something that you could pull off every day, and people are going to really kind of put two and two together because it's going to be so distinct and it's going to stand out so much. They're going to know that when they smell this, you're probably somewhere nearby. That one is around $100 on discounters, so a little bit more expensive, and oftentimes it's sold out on discounters too. Sometimes retail is the only way to go, but if you're on the lookout and if you're on my mailing list and texting list at the link down below and number, every time something rare, discontinued, hard to find, or just hard to find on discounters like that comes into stock, I send out a notification allowing you the opportunity to get those items first before everybody else, before it sells out. So make sure you jump on there. Next up, we're going on the more affordable side of things. $25, maybe $30. Carolina Herrera Chic. It's got watermelon. It's got black pepper. I believe there's some lavender in here as well. Some woods, like a sandalwood going on. A little bit of cedar, possibly. Some cinnamon, which is giving it, no surprise, a little bit of a warm, spicy kick. And also the black pepper giving it a little bit of a spicy kick off the top too. And so the way I've described this one, and I think it's a good thought to get you in a similar ballpark is it's a more mature version of something like Abercrombie & Fitch First Instinct, which also uses a melon note. Not watermelon necessarily, but melon. It has some of that going on, but again, this one has more depth, more sweetness, not quite as tropical, and again, is a bit more mature. Also reminds me a little bit of Creed Millesime Imperial, like the type of melon that they're using in here is similar to that of Millesime Imperial. So it's a nice little crossover there. And again, this one has that cinnamon and things like that to make it a bit more sweet. This is about the same price, or it's actually a little bit more expensive than First Instinct, you know, and it's considerably cheaper than Millesime Imperial by Creed. So it's in a very competitive price point. If you just want something that is kind of fun and just interesting and a bit different, but it's still very wearable and something that you could use for pretty much anything. It's just carefree and easygoing. Check this one out. You know, it's affordable because they really skimped on the presentation. It's not a bad thing, but I mean, there is nothing good about this, really. I mean, it's light duty plastic cap, just a very standard glass bottle. This looks like a rack store find. It just doesn't have curb appeal, but the scent itself is really good. And I think that's one thing where I think this could have done better if the presentation was a bit more flashy, or not even flashy. But when you look at something like this, that looks cool. It stands out. There's contrast. This just doesn't do much of anything. So I think it's easy to pass up. If you're someone who loves the aesthetics of good looking bottles like me, don't let that scare you away from this. It's still worth trying out. Just like this next bottle here, for example, this is right around the same price point, but it's the small details with this one, just the slight variations in color. This one, I think, I can't tell if it's the liquid or it might even be in the bottle, but there's some substance to it. The glass is a bit heavier. The cap has a nice brushed finish on top. It is Hugo Boss Selection. So I don't know if I can get that on camera there, the top of the cap. Probably not going to show up, but there's a brushed finish. It looks really cool. Again, going back to that bottle, there's a slight color. When you look down here, it's completely clear. Up here, there's a little bit of like a bluish, purplish hue, or just like an opaque kind of look to it, I guess. The sides are dark. Maybe that's where that's coming from. It's not letting light in or something. I don't know. Regardless, it's the small things. And for the price of this one, they did a great job. This smells terrific. Terrific. I don't think I've ever used that word in my life, but I'm going with it. This one has musk, pink pepper, and grapefruit in here. Very fresh, very clean. It doesn't get any more safe than this. It just doesn't. Anybody who says this one smells bad, they're lying to you, or what they meant to say was, it's not exciting. Because that is generally kind of misconstrued in the fragrance community. The elitists or snobs or whatever you want to call them will look at something like this and smell it and say, oh, it's awful, it's horrible. Nothing about this smells bad, okay? It might be boring, it might not be all that exciting, but nobody's going to smell this and get offended and think that it smells horrible. It just simply isn't going to happen. And there are definitely some fragrances out there, designer and plenty of niche, that would kind of elicit that reaction. So this one, I mean, it is if you just want no worry at all that anybody will ever think it smells bad. If you just don't want to take that chance, go for something like this. Clean, musky, citrusy, woody. At the same time, doesn't smell like anything else I have. So it's a bit unique while still being very familiar, if that makes sense. But for the price point, it's an easy everyday signature scent. Next up, we have Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue Eau Intense. Beautiful bottle on this one, frosted glass with the liquid itself having the coloration there to give it that kind of light blue look. But as they get emptier and emptier, they look less cool. So always something to keep in mind. But yeah, this one here is great. It's the light blue DNA, which is a bestseller, just a bit stronger, heavier, and better performing. So if you're set on getting, you know, the original light blue DNA, skip the original light blue and get the intense. There's no need to have both unless you're upgrading to the intense. So, you know, if you have the original, it doesn't perform well for you, get the intense. That's going to solve that problem, and then you're kind of stuck with that old bottle. Give it away, sell it, donate it, whatever, or keep it, right? But if you don't have either, just get the intense and then call it good. Now, of course, there are also scents like light blue Italian Love, light blue Forever. those are amazing and they are worth picking up as well. Although a bit more challenging, it might not be the best fit for a video like this. Signature scents, they could be great signature scents, could be for me. They're not going to appeal to as many people though. This, kind of like what I was going on about with Hugo Boss Selection, this is almost impossible to dislike. Not everybody's going to go head over heels in love for this stuff, but I don't think anybody's going to smell this and think that it smells bad necessarily. So it's a very safe pickup for summertime. It smells great, it's refreshing, it's clean. There's a reason why this stuff is a bestseller. Next up here, we have Le Male on Board by Jean Paul Gaultier. This one has amberwood, or actually it's amber, my bad. Amber, tonka bean, some bergamot in here. And I think that's kind of the main notes. It kind of is essentially going to be, out of their in production scents, their summer version right now. So, you know, they have Popeye, Superman, those are discontinued. They've got things like In the Navy and stuff which you can pick up, but I think this is going to be kind of your best selection if you're wanting to get one of their more summer focused ones or one of their fresher ones, so to speak. Phasing out the original Le Male, which has just been overworked at this point, what else do you have really? You start getting into Ultra Male, which is way too sweet and strong for a signature scent for everyday use. In my opinion, you could get away with it, sure, but as soon as you start getting warm outside, it's really going to go downhill quick. And I think for a lot of people, wearing something that's sweet every day, it might actually get a bit tiring. So that's an option, but it's a limited one. Le Male Le Parfum is a better option than that. Sure, could go for that one, I suppose. The new Elixir is sweet as well, and anything could work as a signature scent, let's be real. But the ones that are a bit fresher and more mild are going to be your best choices, and that's kind of where this one falls in. It's also one of the most affordable ones. I think this one is as low as $60 to $65 sometimes for testers, and with these there are no caps, so testers are a great way to go. If they're cheaper, that is, which they should be, go for that. Okay, I need to pick up the pace. This video is running a bit longer than I expected. Ferragamo Uomo Casual Life. This one has violet leaves, some lemon, some coffee, a lot of musk. So it kind of plays on that original Ferragamo Uomo DNA with a little hint of a coffee twist, kind of coming from, I guess, more so the signature, which actually uses coffee, but the original has a kind of a gourmand tiramisu cappuccino-ish smell. So a little bit of both drawing from there, but then a lot of freshness as well. And that's where this one gets into signature scent territory. Kind of clean, sparkling, ozonic from the violet leaf. It's something that you could wear for anything. Got freshness, makes it work great for summertime, and it's also crisp enough with a hint of sweetness to work well in winter. Chanel Allure Homme Sport is an OG scent. This is a DNA that is so popular. So this is the first of its kind. Make no mistake, kind of like we were talking about with Ralph Lauren Purple Label. You know, some things came out a few years later that smelled similar. This is the first. 2004, Versace Pour Homme 2008. I love to point that out because so many people get that wrong. They're very similar, but this one was the first of its kind. And that's not to say that the Versace is bad and, oh, they cloned them, they're horrible. The Versace's great and it's about half the price. So that's a great option. I like the Sport, the Chanel, because of that sweetness. The Versace is all fresh and bright, and that's great. Doesn't hold up as well in winter. This one has a little bit more substance to where when it starts getting cold outside, if you wanted to, you could still pull this one off and it's going to stay relatively strong in comparison to the Versace. It's not the best performer, but it would hold up better in those situations. Finally, we're going to end this video with Dior Homme 2020. It's got a ton of vetiver, a ton of cashmere, and a ton of ISOE super, aroma chemicals, woods, and musk, basically is what this one is in a nutshell. It smells like the everyday, quintessential modern man. If you were to look at a guy on the cover of GQ magazine or whatever, you know, the magazines that they have sitting out in the checkout aisles at stores, and there's a dude in a suit on the front of him, this is probably what he would be wearing. It's clean, it's fresh, it's modern, it's not exciting, but it works. Alrighty guys, that's gonna do it for me. Some of the best signature scents out there on the market. If you just wanna get one and done, something that you can be known for wearing, that's gonna just work well and just be something that is not gonna let you down, go for any of these. Just find the best that works for you and go for it. Links will be down below to discounters, deals, rare, discontinued, hard to find fragrances. You will be notified if you jump on my mailing list and texting list. I'll see you over there. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.